too often, when a person says our reaction is gun control, that is a moral out, so they will not address the problem. The problem in Australia was not guns. Just like it's in England, it's knives. It's not knives. When it's letting people into the country whose culture is antithetical to the tradition and norms of that society. And when they do that, instead of giving them a crash course in civic education, assimilation, integration, culturation, they give them the opposite message. You qualify for DEI. Here's where you get your support. Here's your entitlements. And here's the script that you use to attack conservatives and join us. And that leads to this stuff. That leads to shooting people at the Holocaust Museum. That leads to pushing Jews on campus. That's what it does.
Well, hello, ladies. Hello, gentlemen. Welcome to Victor Davis Hanson in his own words. I'm Jack Fowler, the man lucky enough to get to ask Victor questions, the kind of questions I think you would ask him. We are talking on Monday, December 15th, and this particular episode will be up on Thursday, the 18th. Victor is the Martin and Ely Anderson Senior Fellow at the Hoover Institution, and he's a senior contributor for the Daily Signal, which is the happy home of this podcast. Victor's website is The Blade of Perseus. The web address there is victorhanson.com. I might as well get this all out of the way, Victor. If you're on X, Victor's handle is @VDHanson. And if you want to subscribe to The Blade of Perseus, it's $65 a year. If you're not a subscriber yet, give yourself The Blade of Perseus as a Christmas present. You can read the exclusive articles Victor writes for it. And Victor's on Facebook at VDH's Morning Cup. A lot to talk about today, Victor. There's always a lot to talk about. Yesterday we recorded a program, and we did talk about the Brown University shooting, murders plural. There's an update to be had there. Rob Reiner, the actor and director, has died, and Donald Trump has issued a really troubling truth social post about that. We'll get your thought on that. Tremendous amount of material on California, circling the drain, and Somalis in Minnesota. And maybe we'll have Erica Kirk. We have to talk about Erica Kirk. So that's the panorama of topics for today, and we'll get to them when we come back from these important messages.
Hey folks, it's Tony Kinnett, national correspondent for the Daily Signal and host of the Tony Kinnett Cast. I need to share something with you. Our goal at the Daily Signal is simple: to cut through the noise and give you the facts you need to stay informed as engaged citizens. Unlike so many liberal media outlets, we're honest about our conservative views and report the news with a commitment to telling you the truth. But I'll be straight with you. Running an independent news operation isn't easy. While big media companies have corporate sponsors and massive bloated budgets, we operate differently. We answer to you, our audience, and supporters. That independence is exactly what allows us to tackle the stories others won't touch and ask the tough questions others often avoid. But our independence comes with a challenge. We need your help to ensure the Daily Signal can continue to counter the liberal media's lies with the truth. Every deep dive investigation, every exclusive interview, every fact check we publish requires time and investment. If you've found value in what we do, if the Daily Signal has helped you stay informed or given you insights you couldn't find elsewhere, would you consider supporting our work with a donation today? Even a small monthly contribution makes a real difference in our ability to bring you the journalism you deserve and expect. You can support our work by visiting dailysignal.com/donate. That's dailysignal.com/donate. Every dollar goes directly into making sure we can continue serving you with the reporting you've come to count on. Please go to dailysignal.com/donate and give your gift today.
We are back with Victor Davis Hanson in his own words. So, Victor, as we discussed before we started recording, a few issues relating to Donald Trump, and maybe lump them all together. Of course, the most prominent one that's out, and the most current one today is his truth social post about Rob Reiner, hardcore leftist, but a movie director, many popular movies, and famous to some of us boomers more so as Meathead from All in the Family. He was murdered by allegedly murdered, I should say, and his wife murdered by his son, who was a very deeply troubled, long troubled kid. And then there's a couple of other, I'll just put this into the troubling Trump category of the permitting the sale of chips, important chips to China from NVIDIA. Well, America is going to get a piece of the action, but are we giving important military technological information to the people who are truly our enemies? And then there's been a spate of other from last couple of weeks of Donald Trump pardons, including for the ex-president of Honduras, that to me are just head scratchers. So, Victor, a lot of head scratching going on for a lot of people. Anyway, your thoughts, particularly about the Rob Reiner.
Well, he was a very talented. I think people forget that we call him Meathead, but he did do, I think, When Harry Met Sally and A Few Good Men. A Few Good Men was a good movie, especially that it had the unintended effect. Remember, Jack Nicholson had that outburst, "You can't handle the truth," and it was supposed to show a deranged military, but he inadvertently made Jack Nicholson in sort of, a counter hero, because people would quote that all the time, "You can't handle the truth," but not in the context in which Reiner had intended. He was a very vocal man on the left, but I always, since I was a kid, from my parents, my grandparents, and classical literature and Christianity, always followed the dictum nihil dicere nisi bonum de mortuis. Don't say anything unless it's good about the recently dead. So when truth social posting from Trump comes out, and he says he died because of Trump derangement syndrome, or the anger that I don't know if he's referring to, he thinks the son was angry at his father's politics. I doubt that seriously. I don't know very many people in Brentwood who are pro-Trump people of any mental state. But the point is this, I think that's what you were hinting on, is you can't get angry. I can get angry. You can get angry. We're angry at all those people like Jasmine Crockett or all those Ilhan Omar who said terrible things about Charlie Kirk after he was dead. But you have no moral credibility if you condemn that and you don't condemn what Trump said. And because he said something right after the death, and it wasn't just the death, it was kind of a violent and grotesque death like Charlie Kirk's. He was shot in the neck, and the Reiner's throats were slit by their own son. That's something out of the Sophoclean tragedy. And at this time, something is wrong with the Trump circle. And what I mean by that is, under no circumstances, when you have very, very sensitive matters, should he ever tweet. Because what he's doing is he's ruining all the goodwill that is accruing to him by his counter-revolutionary and successful program. And then he puts the onus. What is Carolyn Levitt going to do now? She's going to go out in front and she's going to try to answer questions on the economy? No, she's not going to have any questions. But what do you think about Rob Reiner? Now, that's a lose-lose situation, as it should be, because she's either going to say, well, Rob Reiner was a very crazy, obsessed anti-Trump. And they're going to say, have you no decency? He's dead. He was murdered. He was grotesquely murdered. Then what is she going to say? Well, we want to send condolences to the family. And they'll say, but he didn't do that. So I think what they're going to have to do is have some kind of, I don't know what, I don't know Trump apologists, but he's got to do something, because what is happening with these tweets, and I know he's gone through all of these things. I wrote a book about it. It's coming out. But you can't throw away all these solid achievements by tweeting, because what you're doing is you're losing the independent voter that will make your counter-revolution successful or not successful, as exemplified by their turnout and vote in the midterm. But that's just a practical reason not to do it. there's also a moral reason not to do it. And this brings up a larger and more controversial question because, Jack, you and I have been in the conservative movement for half a century. We know a lot of these people. I was shocked at Joe Biden's greediness, at Hunter Biden's wastrel lifestyle, at shaking down Burisma, China, Romania, that whole circle of the Biden conspiracy, cabal, family, all the lifestyles that they lived with, that they didn't earn. My point is this: when you come in and all the 51 authorities, that whole corrupt lawfare, you have to offer a contrast. And I think it'd be a good time with this shocking thing for everybody in the Trump team to take a deep breath and say, call everybody in and say, we're going to have a new rapid response. And the president is going to submit something, and there's going to be someone that he trusts, but somebody of sterling reputation who's going to say, this hurts you or it doesn't hurt you. And if it hurts you, under that's not going to go out. Otherwise, he's going to tweet away his accomplishments. Second, there has to be some kind of ethics czar. I don't like that word, but I mean, somebody's got to say to somebody, look, I have a simple question for you. You have made X amount of money. Would you have made X amount of money had you not been close to the people in this administration that had the power to grant private commercial concerns access, deals, etc.? In other words, are there people, and I don't want to hear the argument or the defense or the apology, well, somebody does it. If you want to invest in the United States and you need to know who to talk to, you hire a consulting firm, and then you pay them 15 or 20%, and I'm only charging them 15. And yes, but that was not your job before Trump was elected. So I would like to see the Trump people be beyond suspicion. I'm not speaking as a puritanical person. When Stanley Baldwin died, the prime minister before Neville Chamberlain, and Churchill was later asked to reflect on that, he said it would have been better had the man never lived, because he had disarmed Britain and he had refused to greenlight Hurricane and Spitfire fighter production. And they came within a hair of losing the Battle of Britain for that reason. But that wasn't right in the immediate death of Stanley Baldwin. And I can remember as a young person that because of you're too young, Jack, but when I was a young strapling person, there was a woman named Madame New, and she was, I think, the brother of Diem, the prime minister, president of Vietnam. And he was removed in a coup. And I think it was engineered by
in a church, right?
Removed in a church, yes. And he was a Christian, and he was removed by the Kennedy administration. And Madame New, upon the November 22nd, 1963 assassination of JFK, said something to the effect, and readers of my age will remember and others will fact check me, but she said something along the lines of Jeremiah Wright, chickens coming home to roost, or you know what I mean? Something like that. And everybody was rightfully outraged at that savagery, although she had a point, that her point was not empathy or decency, but she was saying that your country killed my family member. So I guess what I'm saying is, if I see all the things he's doing, whether closing the border or getting rid of the nuclear threat in Iran, or we'll probably have some kind of ceasefire in Ukraine soon. We've restored deterrence abroad. The recruitment is up in the military in a fantastic manner. They're deporting self-deporting or deporting 2 million people. For all the talk in the Wall Street Journal every day that it's bad, going to get worse, we do have 2.8 inflation. That's lower than the 3% he came in. We're looking at 3.5, 3.8. It would have been 4 points of GDP growth in the fourth quarter. And unemployment's a little high at 4.4, but it'll go down as you start to deport workers and as wages will go up. And we have the cheapest gas in 5 years, not since Trump's first administration during the lockdown when nobody was driving. So my point is all of that is on the scale. So why would you tweet something and then nullify the work that you've been doing to persuade people that economically, strategically, security-wise, they're all in a better situation than they were under Biden? And why would... So I would just think, take a deep breath, reorganize, and call everybody in and say, we're not going to talk to the press on our first impulse. I'm very close to Kash Patel. We had him on the program. That was one of our most widely viewed.
Perfect, right?
Yes, he was very good. But when he kind of, what's the word, jumped the gun with the Charlie Kirk assassination, he did the same thing with the Brown. He announced that they had somebody in custody, and whether he used the proper nomenclature, person of interest or suspect, I don't know, but that was not the person. And it just seems to me that everybody is doing two things in the administration right now. One, they're trying to outdo Trump and be combative, and then they want to, their accomplishments are juxtaposed to Biden, and that's legitimate. So he can say, we are not spying on traditional Catholics. We're not spying on school board visitors to the school board, parents. We're not doing any of that. But you don't have to keep saying, crooked Joe Biden, we're not doing that. It doesn't work. That's all.
Victor, I'm going to circle back on that chip sale, but first I want to let our listeners and our viewers know that you've been a close friend of Dennis Prager's for many years and have had the privilege of working with his remarkable team at PragerU. You've appeared in several of their 5-minute videos. They've reached tens of millions worldwide. And here at Victor Davis Hanson, in his own word, we value that over 60% of PragerU's audience is under the age of 35, the very generation most in need of enduring American principles. At a time when education and media often erode confidence in our country, PragerU stands firm in defending truth, reason, and the legacy of Western civilization. So we are proud to be part of their family, and we encourage you, listeners and viewers, to please join us at prageru.com/VDH. Your tax-deductible gift is triple matched through December 31st. So please give generously at prageru.com/VDH. And we thank the good people from PragerU for sponsoring Victor Davis Hanson in his own words. Victor, any thoughts about that chip sale? Does that trouble you?
I'm not qualified. The answer I would say would be no, but I'm not qualified to know what degree we have leakage. In other words, if we said you can't sell chips of this caliber and sophistication to the Chinese, and somebody going to write an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal and say, I'm a sophisticated electrical engineer, computer engineer, and this is stupid. You can't stop it. They're going to leak it. So I don't know, but ostensibly it reminds me of the 600,000 Chinese students. It's not a good idea. And what I'm getting at here, and this is connected, when Trump makes these deals, I understand that he especially now, they are in overdrive to get deals made and get the actual fruits of their labors apparent before the midterms. If you want, somebody says, I want $1 trillion in foreign investment, then you say, I need it now, and we need to get these jobs going. Okay. But your brand, President Trump, is the MAGA base. And one of the things that you ran on, besides you were going to correct the corruptness of the Biden consortium, family consortium, was you couldn't trust the Chinese. They were at war with us, and everybody was selling America out by going over there and investing. Okay. So you have two polar opposite forces here. He has one force that says we've got to make as many deals as quickly and raise as much money and get the economy moving, versus you can't trust the Chinese. So in art of the deal fashioning, he is trying to give the Chinese some little lever. We'll let another 300,000 in if you give us a good trade deal. We'll let you have the chips if you give us a good trade deal. But on the other hand, he's violating the very principles that other people did. Yes, he's not doing it for his own company, and he's going to give the revenue in part to the United States. But you're in power when you say you're going to allow 300,000 more Chinese, and when already 2 to 10,000 of them are technological spies, and you're going to double that number. It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. And again, somebody's going to say, well, Victor, if you were in his place and they were attacking you every single day, you would, well, yes, I would. That's why I don't ever run for office. I'm incapable of handling that. Most of us are. But if you want to run for office, then you've got to be consistent. And I'm worried because these are unenforced errors, Jack. They're not forced errors. They're unenforced. In other words, the things that he wants to get done, and they put there at Doug Burgum at the Interior Department, wonderful. You can say all you want negatively about Pig Hexa, but he got the recruitment back up to where it is. And he's got a deterrent force. You can say all you want about Pam Bondi, but so far the DOJ is working pretty well. And John Ratcliffe's doing a great job at the CIA. So the things are going well. The achievements are there. The foreign policy record is for everybody to see. The economic stimuli are already in place. You've got people like Scott Bessant, Kevin Wash, Kevin Hassert. You got really brilliant people around you. All you have to do is let them do their stuff and stick to what you campaigned on. But don't give the Chinese any bones that hurts our national security in lieu of a fast-paced deal, I don't think. And please don't anybody who dies, there's a 48-hour, 36-hour, 5-day grace period, you know. I had an uncle, I won't mention his name, but he was really, I was the only one in my generation who liked him. The other people at my age had good reason not to like him. He was very, very wealthy, very successful. And he was a very close relative of ours. And he would come in when we were losing money and come, you know, he was from the old school. Well, you know, you guys can't make it. You can't get a loan to get your crop loan. I got $5 million in the bank right now, getting 18%. How's that? You know, that kind of stuff. And then he lived to be, I think, 98. And when I went to the funeral, there was only about 8 people there. And the person made the mistake of saying, does anybody have, you know, they have that custom at some funerals, Jack, where they ask people to say something in the crowd about but they shouldn't have done that because most of the things were not nice that people said. But they weren't overt. They were things like, well, you know, I told him he could have the manure from my lot. So he took his trucks over there and he loaded them up and they got stuck all day. Because I told him not to go in there, but he did anyway. Then we had to go bail him out, and then he called me up and said, I shouldn't have to pay you because I lost money on the deal because you didn't have a dry road. Well, I just wanted to throw that in at the funeral. That kind of stuff. Well, and then somebody asked me to say something, and I said, he is what he is. He was a self-made man. I tried to think of everything positive about him. Because death is the end of the corporal existence, and we don't know how individuals will end up on the other side. But it's not a good thing.
Doesn't eulogy mean happy?
Logos, a beautiful thing to say.
Yeah, right.
That's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You don't criticize people when they die, and especially you don't criticize people who die violently, and you don't criticize people in an Oedipean fashion that are killed by their sons. It's just a family tragedy. And I was not a big fan of hers. I was not a he didn't bother me like he did a lot of people, because he always attacked Trump. He attacked Trump all the time, but I don't think some of his things were very good, but I do think he made 2 or 3 good movies. I really thought his father, who lived to be, I think, 98, Carl Reiner, was very talented. And he was part of a culture in Brentwood. If anybody's driven through that neighborhood or visited there, it's the most upscale, one of the most upscale in California. It's all left-wing, very big homes, OJ's former area. So it is what it is, as they say. And you can disagree with what he said, you can do things, but I just remember very carefully everybody on the left seemed to be ghoulish and revel in Charlie Kirk's death, and he didn't. He said something that was nice about him, how tragic it was. And so I just wish, and the sad thing about what I'm saying is it's not that Trump's not capable of it. He's got a very kind side. He's calls people up. When he sees people grieving for their children who have been killed overseas, he doesn't look at his watch like Biden. He looks at them. He calls them up. He's worried about them. So I have a lot of anecdotes of people have called me about Trump and said, I thought he didn't care, but I talked to this guy whose mother died and needed a burial, and he paid for it. Or I knew these guys were going to serve a special thing, and he knew they were going to not have tips, and he just went out and opened his wallet and gave them one. I hear that all the time. So he needs to just get out of the news cycle.
Yes, right. Put the phone down. Hey, Victor, before we take a break, I think we should talk about Erica Kirk when we come back from the break, but let's just, one last thing about the Brown University shootings, murders, was, and the information is still very sketchy, but one of the girls, of the 2 who were murdered, Ella Cook, was the president of a very small Brown young Republican club, young conservative, and it seems like from some reports that she was specifically sought out first to be...
We'll see what happens. It is a coincidence that it's the same day as the Bondi Beach murders, and that's a larger issue, but it's very hard to talk until we get concrete information. But we do have concrete information about Australia, and we talked about it last time. I don't understand the calls for gun control immediately when that Brave, who was an Arab Australian, when he stopped that shooter, he didn't have a gun. He went out and he got shot. He's almost got himself killed. But had anybody had a gun, or if the police had gun training, they didn't do anything in Australia for seconds, minutes. That could have been prevented.
I think until that guy stopped that shooter,
no, they had not. And he didn't even he was unarmed, and he paid a terrible price by being severely wounded. But the left always says we need new gun control. We need new gun control. Somebody, they always said this only happens. No, it happens anywhere. But the point I'm making is, too often when a person says our reaction is gun control, that is a moral out, so they will not address the problem. The problem in Australia was not guns. Just like it's in England, it's knives. It's not knives. When it's letting people into the country whose culture is antithetical to the tradition and norms of that society, and when they do that, instead of giving them a crash course in civic education, assimilation, integration, culturation, they give them the opposite message. You qualify for DEI. Here's where you get your support. Here's your entitlements. And here's the script that you use to attack conservatives and join us. And that leads to this stuff. That leads to shooting people at the Holocaust Museum. That leads to pushing Jews on campus. That's what it does.
I think it's fair to lump much of this murdering under leftism.
I do. There's no deterrence. You know, another thing I get really angry at, I think all of us listening, as soon as they kill a Jewish person or shoot a Jewish person, I am getting so tired of these weasel words. That's not who we are. This is intolerable. This will, we have no allowance for that here. Yeah, you do. You do, because the first thing you do every time that happens and somebody says you need to address anti-Semitism, you do something like the following. I have just appointed an anti-Semitism special envoy. I have just appointed a anti-Semitism czar. Take a deep breath. And one for Islamophobia as well. And then they never tell us what are the actual statistics of people who shoot people for political purposes that are Jewish, who comprise 6%, 7% of the population versus those who are Muslim in the United States that are 3.5%. What is the symmetry between Jewish on Muslim crime and Muslim on Jewish crime? And if they are as asymmetrical as the last time I looked, especially hate crime statistics, then I would suggest that there's no need to investigate Islamophobia until you have eliminated anti-Semitism, because it's a much greater problem statistically. But why do they do that? Because of politics, or they're afraid. It's almost, I want to be really crass, Jack, it's almost, I'm afraid to criticize open borders, immigration from the Middle East, radical Islam, river to the sea. For what now? Well, let's see. Commercial? Yeah, there's 500 million Arabs and Muslims in the Middle East, and they're a lot richer with a lot more oil than 11 million Jews. Is it my personal safety? Yeah. If I say something negative about the Quran or Islam or the Muslim community, I might be hurt. If I say something, and if I call a Jew's name, you think a Jewish terrorist is going to kill me? No. Is it anti-Semitism? Yes. The ancient curse of Europe, that's part of it as well. Is it political? Yes. It's a lot of politics. There's going to be a much greater Arab population according to demographics, even without further immigration. Then there is a fourth to fifth generation rapidly assimilating Jewish population. So it's kind of a cowardly calculus that people make, and celebrities, media people, politicians, etc., college presidents, the Claudine Gays of the world.
Yeah. And leaving the world for their children and grandchildren to put them at risk.
It's very ironic, because what I take away from the transformation of Tucker Carlson and then add in Candace Owens and others is that they believe that there's this small cabal of Jews that have all this power and are running out everything, sort of like the Wizard of Oz behind a curtain. And yet, if that were to be true, they surely don't have much influence, because they're a lot more scared people of the Islamic community than they are the Jewish community, the people who can actually make policies, or the bureaucrats or the media, because from their rhetoric and their policies, they will never say one thing. All they have to do is call up Ilhan Omar and say, listen, here's a affidavit. Would you please sign under penalty of oath? I never married my biological brother. The case closed. We'll never say another word. But she'll never do that. And they're scared to do that. And we know why. Because, the Somali community is 89,000 strong in Minneapolis. Whatever. So,
all millionaires from the graph.
Now it's in Ohio, too, we learn, and parts of Chicago.
Yeah. Well, Victor, we're going to, let's talk about Erica Kirk, and we'll do that when we come back from these important messages.
Right is still right, even if you stand by yourself.
Mr. Chief Justice, may it please the court.
This is Hans von Spakovsky, host of the Case in Point podcast, which looks at the hottest cases affecting politics, culture, and everyone's daily lives. But we talk about them without confusing legal jargon. And we have interesting guests, like former House Speaker Newt Gingrich. And we end with reviews of classic Hollywood movies relevant to the topic. Case in Point, the podcast available everywhere you won't want to miss.
We're back with Victor Davis Hanson in his own words. Here we are at the Daily Signal, happily. Today we're recording on Monday the 15th. This episode will be up on Thursday the 18th, week before Christmas. My old friend, I love her dearly, Catherine Lopez, wrote a column, her syndicated column. It's titled, "What the Hell is Wrong with a Country That Makes a Widow Defend Herself for a Living?" And for Catherine to use the word hell is...
Yes, we wouldn't allow her to be on our podcast using that word. I remember Catherine very well. She was my first editor at National Review.
Yeah, Catherine.
Never says anyone.
Here's what she wrote, Victor. I've had paper cuts that took longer to heal than Erica Kirk. That's in quotes. You may have seen this comment on X in recent days, and yes, by the author of a book titled, "If God is Love, Don't Be a Jerk." I've also read that she's, quote, hawking her dead husband's book, end quote. And that's far from the worst out there. Other things that are being said about Erica should be made fun of for the rings she has, for her makeup, for the clothes, for the fact that she's been seen smiling on occasions, or now that she's the CEO of a TPUSA, that she would dare to raise funds. And that, of course, that she hugged a J.D. Vance. This lady has taken a beating, and yet she is a tough cookie, in my opinion, how she's come out standing.
And you were much politer and more circumspect than I was, because the mortal sin is these people who are suggesting that there were insiders among the group of Turning Point USA staffers and hierarchy, maybe including her, that felt that they had some inkling that either they felt that there was some inkling that somebody might injure Charlie Kirk and they didn't do anything, or I think, and remember what we're talking about, everybody. These people who, Candace Owens, they never say this explicitly. They'll say, I'm just throwing out, Jack, I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm just going to put it out in the air, and you can believe it or not, but there were some GPS, there were some location GPS points that put a lot of Egyptian planes near Charlie Kirk. They were following. I don't know why. Or there were some, I'm not just putting it out there, there was some Mossad people, just rumors, who knows, contacts with some of the people in I'm just putting it out there, Jack. There was just some word, just some inkling that Charlie was starting to think, the Jews in Israel are just a little bit too much for me. I think I'm just going to back off. And maybe, Jack, I'm just suggesting it now. Nothing more. That might have had just a little bit of something to do with his death. No, it had no. Unless you want to put out an affidavit with time, place, who, when, how, data, and show that, Kate, you have no business talking about that after his death. And yet they're doing that for what purpose? I don't know. Clicks, get famous, make money, cause chaos. But it's a sick thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that my day job at Amphil, we do extensive work and have done extensive work with Turning Point. And it's a profoundly important organization and profoundly consequential organization. And I think a fear with her, Victor, is as influential as Charlie Kirk was towards the end of his life, and who knew that was going to be the end of his life, but the impact he was having on the spirituality of many Americans, young Americans coming back to church, very traceable to him. I think some people think she, in her own way, given her own strength, may be as consequential, if not more. She brings other strengths to the table.
What would Charlie Kirk, if you could talk to him right now, would you say to him, Charlie, would you, given the trauma that has ensued for your children and your wife, would you want her to go into 19th century mourning in black and seclude herself and turn over your lifelong work to subordinates and just kind of bow out? Or would you want her to press on as she was going although in a more limited fashion, to ensure that your vision for what this group was and what it might do for the United States would continue as it was. I think it was the latter myself. I mean, I didn't know him as well as most people, but I did know him somewhat. I met him a lot. I went out and spoke with him. I did his show sometimes. I talked 2 weeks before he died with him. And I think he would probably approve of what she's doing. Look, the problem is, in our society, she's a very attractive woman. She's young. She's well-dressed. She's well-spoken. And that naturally suggests, well, you're flirting, or you're getting too much attention, or this. And that's not fair. It isn't. Because she's not trying to do that. She's just trying to say, please don't spin conspiracy theories about my husband and me and my family and my organization.
Yeah, if she's inauthentic. If she was some, rap strumpet, she'd be.
See, I have problems. It's like the thing with Trump. I mean, the thing he said I thought was really wrong, and you have to come out and say it, even though you support what he's trying to do. I knew Tucker very well. At least I was on his show. But when Tucker starts to throw this out, and he's been throwing things out like that eulogy that you and I talked about, that it's like some people in the Middle East eating hummus and then talking about how to kill Christ. That metaphor, simile, was very well known, what he was trying to say. The Jews were responsible in some way for this Christ-like figure who was not crucified but killed in sacrificial fat. And then to suggest that 9/11, Tower 7, or to suggest there's no evidence of that at all, concrete evidence. And then to suggest that the Jews kind of ordered Donald Trump to take out the Iranian, that was not in our interest. That was in our interest, I can guarantee you that. Even if you asked Barack Obama, the architect of the Iran deal, would you like to have delivered on a platter a mission that lost no Americans and ended the Iranian threat for 5 years? He would have said yes. And now it's about Maduro, Jack. That somehow the removal of Maduro is being engineered by the Jews. I've never seen anything like it. I'm 72. I've never seen and the problem, as we talked last time, the right was the watchdog of anti-Semitism, given what the left is. The Democratic Socialists of America, I mean, Mondani and all these people are anti-Semites. And you're going to see things that you haven't seen because we're tiptoeing toward. When I watched that 15-minute or 14-minute video of Australia, it was like some sick novel that people were hunting Jews like they were animals, you know what I mean? Like a shooting gallery. And that was in Australia, and I listened to that creepy prime minister try to weasel his way out. Couldn't even condemn it in strong terms and what was going on. And then to think that we're giving signals to people, winking and nodding, that, yeah, the Jews might have been involved with Charlie Kirk. Yeah, the Jews might have been involved with 9/11. Oh, the Jews might have been, getting us into a war with Iran. And then the Jews were trying to get in a war with Venezuela. And then somebody's out there saying, okay, I better stop the Jews. I'll go out, get my gun and shoot some. Or I'll go out and hit some. Or I'll go out to a museum and kill them. Or I'll go firebomb a Jew. That's what happened. So it's really disturbing.
Well, Victor, we're going to shift gears a little bit, talk about California. But first, to our listeners and viewers, if you want to drop extra pounds, if you want to boost energy levels or reduce swelling in your legs and feet, then this message is for you. Pure Health Research is on a mission to make America healthy again, and 2 of their best-selling health supplements are leading the way. The first is Liver Health Formula. Over 100 million Americans have sluggish liver riddled with fatty deposits. This can kill your metabolism, pile on the pounds, and make you feel tired. Liver Health Formula takes care of that. It supports thriving liver health and with special nutrients like artichoke extract and milk thistle. This is one of the easiest ways to slim down and revitalize your energy levels. Next is lymph system support. If you struggle with fluid buildup or swelling in your legs, ankles, or feet, this is for you. The natural ingredients in lymph system support help gently flush extra fluid and toxins out of the body. And right now, for a limited time, you can get 35% off liver health formula and lymph system support, along with all 50-plus health supplements Pure Health Research has to offer. Head over to purehealthresearch.com and use the coupon code VICTOR at checkout. That's purehealthresearch.com with the coupon code VICTOR to save 35% on your order today. And we thank the good people from Pure Health Research for sponsoring Victor Davis Hanson in his own words. Victor, there's so many California-related topics, but I want to maybe we can get to some of them after the next break, but there's a great piece by your friend and colleague.
Leo's he's just a wonderful author. He really is. He's very soft-spoken. He's not self-referential. I don't think he gets enough attention, but his dissections of California have been brilliant.
He did so folks who are interested in reading this at the
Say Lee, but I'm sorry.
And Bill, that's right, yeah. He and Bill Whalen run California on Your Mind. And last week he wrote an article giving the review California 2025. And I'll just read the subheads for the things he's looked at. I think there are 5 sections. Los Angeles is $1 billion 8-mile bike lane. The high-speed rail, decades late and perhaps $1 billion short. Aging water storage and conveyance that waits to get prepared. California's gerrymander to squash the Republican majority. What else do we have here? The refinery closures that are likely going to lead to $8 a gallon. And by the way, I did read that one.
Yes, Valero.
Valero?
They've got a big one. It's a big one. It's in Benicia, I think. Or there's Phillips and Valero, and one is up near Richmond, and one's in Benicia. And my gosh, we're importing gasoline. Can you believe this, Jack? Japan is importing oil, some of it from us, and then they're refining this special brew that only a few places in the world can do of California gas, and sending it back here on tankers because we won't build new. Gavin and the left want it both ways. They want to have this super clean, hard to refine formula for gas, but they don't want to build the refineries in sufficient quantity to do it. And then when they start to regulate them and keep doing it, adding on more and more cost, and they want them to lose money because they're evil corporations, and they're not going to do it anymore. So they would that's going to cost them $1 billion to leave. And their way, yeah. Yeah, and I guess fellow Californian and former energy secretary under Barack Obama was Dr. Chu. Remember him? And he said he wanted to see gasoline up to European levels. At that time, they were $9. I guess that's what Gavin's... When I was reading about this week, I said to myself, and I wrote a column about this about a year ago, but if I wanted to destroy California, it would be very hard to do. It has $11 trillion in market capitalization in Silicon Valley. It had wonderful governors, Pat Brown Sr., Ronald Reagan, George McMahan, Pete Wilson. Even the first term of Schwarzenegger wasn't bad. It had the best university system, JCs, 23 state universities, 9 UC campuses. It had 2 of the top 5 universities in the world rated, Stanford and Caltech. It had private universities that were just nearly as good, USC. And it had the richest farming economy of the 50 states, as well as a big banking and energy sector. It was, when I was growing up, self-sufficient in oil and natural gas, and it had the 3rd or 4th largest timber industry of all the 50 states. So if I want, it would be very hard to destroy that. I would just say, how would I do it? I know what I'll do. I'll raise taxes to 13.3%. I'll raise the highest sales tax about 8%, and then they can add on at the local level to get it up to 12%. I'll have the highest gas taxes. I'll have the highest I'll have the highest gas prices because of my blends. And then I will just call the middle class white racist. I'll gerrymander the state, but I'll call it under a new nonpartisan way of doing it. And I will see if I can get rid of these 10 million conservative voters and drive them out. I'll make fun of them. I'll outregulate their businesses, get them out. And then I'll open the borders and bring in 10 million people across the southern border. And my biggest goal is to make sure that I price electricity so high that a quarter of the people cannot pay their bills. That way, I'll get to stick it to the people who have money and use a lot, and I can give welfare to the people who can't afford their bills, and they'll be indebted to me, and then I'll make sure that 40% of all health care in California is state-supplied Medi-Cal welfare, and I want to make sure that half of all the births are on welfare. And now that I think of it, I want to bring in so many people that almost a third of the state were not born in the United States. But I don't want any civic education. Why would I contaminate their mind with melting pot civic education and propaganda? They have to be told how awful, not how good the United States was. And you know what? I just thought up another thing, Jack. 3 more things. I'll take $7 billion that all these stupid people want to do and build reservoirs so in wet years they have plenty of water for agriculture, consumers, hydroelectric, and I'll blow them up. I'll use it to blow them up. I'll blow 4 dams up, and maybe I'll blow another one up at the Eel. And then we have the 99, I forgot. It's the most dangerous highway in the United States. It hasn't been updated since its creation. It's only 4 lanes in many places. I will never make it 6 lanes. I'll never make 101 6 lanes. I'll never make I-5, but I've got a high-speed rail project. I'm going to sink $20 billion. It'll go nowhere, but it means that nobody gets to have a nice freeway. I'll do that. Is there anything I can do just to irritate people? Yes. I will give 17,000 drivers. 17,000? I think it's more like 60, but I'll say 17,000 licenses to people to drive very dangerous trucks, 20 tons, and they don't have to know English. They can take 10 times to pass the test with a wink and nod, and they don't have to be American citizens, and they don't have to be legal immigrants. I think I can all do that, and then I'll get California's test scores down to 45th in the country. I think I did it. I'm Gavin Newsom. I'm Jerry Brown. I'm Nancy Pelosi. I'm Dianne Feinstein. I'm Barbara Boxer. I'm Kamala Harris. That's what we did. We're all from the Bay Area. Thank you. It's hard to do, but they did it.
Victor, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, one last California-related story, and that's Gavin Newsom versus Mr. Musk. Elon Musk. And we'll do that when we come back from these final important messages. We're back with Victor Davis Hanson, in his own words, recording on Monday, the 15th of December. This episode up on the 18th. We're wishing our friends, our brothers and sisters in Abraham, our Jewish friends, happy Hanukkah, despite what you're enduring, especially those in Australia, but everywhere. River to the sea seems to be creeping into all aspects and all communities around the world. The global intifada is indeed global. But do try to have a happy one, and early Merry Christmas to our friends, brothers and sisters in Christ. So here's a headline, Victor. Musk slams Governor Newsom, says transgenderism is evil woke mind virus. SpaceX billionaire Elon Musk rebuked Newsom's deputies for claiming he is hated by his son, whom they describe as a transgender daughter. Quote, I assume you're referring to my son Xavier, who has a tragic mental illness caused by the evil woke mind virus you push on vulnerable children, Musk wrote in a post on X. I love Xavier very much and hope he recovers. My daughters are as Azure, Ixa, who goes by Y, and Arcadia, and they do indeed love me very much, end quote. Musk's post came in response to a post from Newsom's press office, blah, blah, blah. I'm glad to see Elon Musk. I'm glad to see just about everything he does, but sticking it in Gavin Newsom's eye, especially on this issue.
Yeah, I don't know what Gavin's whole point is, but he has a rapid response team, and he is doing his best so that when Trump lets out something that's crass or crude, his idea is to copy it and outdo it. And he's got these young something people who've never really been out in the real world, and they attack people's children. They use all sorts of horrible words. We were told he wants to hit Trump in the mouth. He wants to beat up his supporters, all this stuff. And then, with his little herky-jerky attitude when he sees people, and it's not working. He has no record. There's no record here. It's a record of destruction. I feel like he did to us what Scipio Mallianus did to Carthage in the Third Carthaginian War. I do. People forget that Scipio didn't say, I'm going to destroy your city. He said his predecessors, the generals that he replaced, said, if you just disarm yourself, then we'll let you live. And they disarmed themselves, and then we know what happened. So they never announced their intentions. And he does, I don't quite understand when he does all these deleterious things on energy and timber and farming and water and taxes and healthcare and destroys the state. And then he says he's going to give during COVID, 500 million to illegal aliens, or he's going to give all this land to indigenous people, or this water, or he's going to have a reparations for, so I guess he thinks California was a slave state, which it wasn't. And that's going to appeal to everybody, but it's not. And it's just, he always does these terrible things that really matter in substance: food, housing, education, transportation, fuel, power. And then he does these token things that don't, but they're also aimed at kind of that left-wing liberal. And somebody's going to say, well, Victor, why don't you get to the quick? The quick is that from La Jolla to Berkeley along a coast, there are 10 to 15 million upper class, mostly white, vestigial population who are very, very liberal, and they have so much money, they're never subject to the consequences of their ideology, and they want to feel good because they don't have to worry about money, so they view the rest of the state as a lab rat to be experimented on. And that's true.
Victor, seems like his student overseas is Starmer, the Prime Minister of England. The things you just recited about how do I destroy the state, I'll read part of this. This is a post on X from James Melville, who, in your kind of sarcastic tone there, wrote, let's ban new oil and gas licenses in the North Sea, but spaff away $40 billion buying North Sea oil and gas from Norway. Let's buy coking coal shipments worth 7.2 million pounds from Japan, but ban UK coal mining. Let's give 500 million pounds this year alone to wind power companies not to generate power from their wind turbines.
Yeah, I saw that, and that's very instructive because that's exactly right, Jack. That's what Newsom does. It's not just the initial sin, transgression, that he stops oil production or timber production or power production, but he doesn't then have the courage to go to the people and say, we're not going to pump any oil, so you're going to have to cut back. We're not going to build any homes because I'm not going to let you cut trees in California. We're going to have to shut off your electricity at 7 at night because we're not going to import any electricity fueled by coal from Arizona or Utah. But it's just the opposite. He says to people, I'm going to play a little game with you. Your lifestyle will be untouched ostensibly, but it's going to cost a lot more. So you're all going to get a little poor, especially you middle class people. But you're going to be able to say, not in my name. We didn't pump oil in California, because we'll just import the gas or the oil and refine it here, or have the Japanese refine it. We don't cut trees in California, but you're going to have a lumber, all the 2x6s you need. We're going to import it from Alaska and Canada. We don't burn coal, but we're going to let other people do it. That's their attitude. And they never say to themselves, well, why don't we cut the planet? We always believed it was spaceship Earth, one planet. Can't we cut lumber more ecologically sound than the Canadians? Can't we pump oil in Bakersfield or offshore Santa Barbara in a safer manner than the Venezuelans or the Saudis or the Kuwaitis do it? Can't we burn coal just as well as, or even cleaner than other states do? But he doesn't do that. He's like a little kid, a little adolescent that wants this and this and then doesn't want to pay for it, or doesn't want to. And so that's what's so troubling. Everybody, driving people in California crazy, they all know the problems. They all know the problems. They all know the solutions. Even little Democrats know this, but they can't do it. Livy, in his introduction to the history of Rome, said, we are all aware of the problems, and we all are aware of the medicine, and the medicine is worse than the disease, basically. And that's our problem in this country. We all know what we have to do, but we say to ourselves, just getting there. We all know we cannot borrow $37 trillion anymore. It's too much. We have to stop it. We have to pay down that debt. But gosh, look what happened to Doge. Can we do this? Can you imagine all the people are going to call us racist, sexist, transphobes, homophobes, cruel, mean, Nazis, fascist? We all know that we have 12 million illegal aliens and at least 500,000 are criminals. We got to find them before they kill and maim anymore. Man, do you know how many ICE protesters there would be if you did that? The medicine is worse than the disease. It isn't, but that's what people feel. I'm getting kind of depressed. I really am, because the only solution that you see right now is Trump, because he is addressing more oil, more natural gas, more. They just found a huge rare earth mine, Jack. I think in Utah. It's vital. That would never be developed under anybody but Trump. He's got this. The space program is going gangbusters. AI, robotics, genetic engineering, it's all being encouraged. We are not giving away $80 billion in the misadventure in Kabul. We're trying to restore deterrent. It's all going good, but not if you continue to throw it all away with silly tweets, stupid tweets. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, there'd be good things to tweet about, like, hey, we found 62,000 kids that Biden had let disappear.
They need to get everybody, as I said that 2 weeks ago, get everybody in that cabinet together in a room, and no reporters, no speeches, nothing. Just close the door and say, look, we're in the 11th hour. We've got less than 12 months for the midterms. If we lose the midterms, we're all going to be drawn up by these crazy people and subpoenaed, and it's going to cost each of us $1 million in legal fees, because they're going to go after all of us to bankrupt us. They're going to impeach the president, and we're not going to have any time or power to continue these initiatives. So let's get cracking. Everybody look for things that will improve the economy, and look at ways of trying to tell the people what you're doing. No tweets about any other thing. Nothing. See what happens.
No tweetio. Well, Victor, you've been terrific, as ever. Appreciate all the wisdom you shared today. And as ever, as we always do, the end of the podcast, we try to read some of the comments, that thousands we get every week now through YouTube, Apple, your website, Rumble. Here are two. One is from Catherine Vinson, 7769, who writes, listening to VDH talk about World War II aircraft was like having my father sitting beside me, talking about those same planes that he flew during and after World War II. Thank you. More than any other World War II historian, Hanson makes the war come alive to those who didn't live through it. His observations and insight never fail to reveal different aspects of the war to me, and I've spent many years immersed in World War II history. He's a gift. True. And then one more, Paul Zarobsky, 2659, who writes, "Let us all pray for Mr. Hanson to have a successful procedure, speedy recovery, and many more years."
Yes, and as I'm speaking, I will find the results out today. But not yet. Not yet.
All right, Victor. No,
not today.
Not yet. Not eventually, someday for all of us, but not. No. Okay. Well, thanks, Victor. Thanks all who have watched and listened. Hey, as for me, sign up. Go to civilthoughts.com. Sign up for Civil Thoughts, the free weekly email newsletter I write. It comes out every Friday. 14.
Everybody say a prayer for the Reiner family. I feel really terrible about that. Just senseless violence.
Oh yeah.
Sick.
Amen.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
All right. God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to the Daily Signal. Please like, share, and subscribe to be notified for more content like this. You can also check out my own website at victorhanson.com and subscribe for exclusive features in addition.